What is up, my friends? This is the Protect Your Neck podcast, and I'm your host, Dan Tom. Analyst work you can find over at MMA Junkie as well as linemovement.com. But on this here program, the Protect Your Neck podcast, we break down high-level MMA. That's what we're going to do here today, tonight, whenever you're listening to this. Hopefully it's before the fight, recording this Thursday night, 10 p.m. West Coast Pacific time, just a bit before the weigh-ins are about to start off officially. Got my dude over there, MMA Junkie John. Got the coverage over at MMAJunkie.com for that. So that also technically makes it a Friday show because, yes, the fights are going on UFC 254 over in the UAE, Abu Dhabi. Yaz Island. So, it's going to be a daytime, primetime show for us. Primetime for them, or daytime for us, I should say, on Saturday. So I'll be up extra early with my man Aaron. Hopefully I won't forget, as I tend to do, as I'm so burnt out by the end of the weeks, as you folks could probably tell, especially lately this week. I think it's only 17 cards straight, which is a record for me at least. But I think it's like 26 or 27 cards in a 28 week or 29 week span. So yeah, feeling it. But I'm not trying to complain. But a little break, a little moderation is good. And your boy has not been getting that. So this podcast actually almost didn't happen. So I'm going to give you guys what I got, the energy I got. We're gonna try to blow through it. I dare say it may be expedited. You can check the timestamps. Speaking of timestamps, as per usual, I will provide them for these breakdown shows in the Protect Your Neck podcast. Always check the timestamps whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts. Thanks for the 5-star ratings and review. Actually got a 5-star rating come in. It was like the first in like a month, which is great. But thank you. Or check the timestamps in the show notes. If you're listening on YouTube, give it an old like and subscribe to the channel, Daniel Tom MMA. I really want to put it out of its misery. That thing is slugging along at like 200 and something subscribers still. It's pretty damn sad when everyone and their mother has like 1K. I'm like, Jesus Christ. It's pretty damn pathetic, but I'm still working my ass off and putting stuff out for you guys regardless. And even as burnt as I am booking and doing double work behind the scene to get some top 5 shows done. I already got one in the bank, top 5 thick fighters. I haven't forgot about that. If you saw that posting, don't worry. And we'll have another one there with a man who I've always been promising to get on this podcast. We're in the process of booking Phil McKenzie from Heavy Hands. So going to have all the top 5s along with interviews, along with the recap shows, along with the breakdown shows, and all the other things I do for you. I want to get back into some video editing and dust that off, but when the fuck am I going to have time? I don't take any days off, which is part of the problem. So before we get to the breakdown, I'm going to recap UFC on ESPN 38. Went 7-4 overall in picks, 1-1 in straight plays, 0-1 in props, and didn't take any parlay shots, which will be like the opposite, spoiler alert, for this week. So let's go to those results quickly. Brian Ortega at the top defeated Chan Sung Jung. I mean, he just went 28 days later and conquered the zombie. And yeah, man, it was hard to see that coming. So that sucked as a zombie fan. Sucked if you played a bet on zombie. I did, not super big, but I did, yeah. But man, Ortega, that's maybe the second best performance of the pandemic next to Gaethje Ferguson. As far as like a fighter just showing a new fold. I mean, it wasn't even a new fold. This was like a new fighter. Primarily fighting southpaw, which was interesting because like I had a suspicion watching how he was grabbing his guillotines. I noticed that like both of his latest guillotine finishes were from the left side, and the way he throws, he almost seems like he's left-hand dominant. Now I'm good radar spotting a right-hand dominant southpaws because that's me, but a left-hand dominant orthodox, and that's something I didn't touch on in the breakdown, and I kind of wish I did. Probably would have been the one saving grace of analysis to make me look like a smart kid. But yeah, there are some legs to that left-hand dominance because he really looked great out of the southpaw stance. So good on Brian Ortega. It definitely makes an interesting matchup for Volkanovski, and I can see why people would want that, although it just something feels wrong about re-rushing this kid right back into the title shot. So we'll see. Jessica Andrade beat Caitlin Chukagian. I don't know why I stuttered there. Yeah, body shot to the body. Y'all heard of Jimmy fucking Crute? Made that look easy as far as a parlay piece, but like I said, even if that did happen, don't write off Modestus Bukauskas. Let's see what he can do in the future. I think this was just a tough draw. Jimmy Crute better than given credit for, although the odds starting to reflect that, so I don't know if I can say that now. James Krause defeated Claudio Silva. New level. No new level this time, Claudio. No new level. Me, Hannibal. Yes, you, Hannibal. You lose too. No, yes. Good on James Krause. It was pretty goddamn masterful, especially considering he had an effed up knee. And just puts on a clinic, man. And Silva always looks like he's like gassed and stuff, and that's kind of how he always fights. But yeah, just the thing was he couldn't get the grappling going, and that was the problem. Footwork and the positioning was too good from Krause. So props to Krause, man. Great performance. Was right on the Jonathan Martinez fight. They got that southpaw underdog cashed at least. Defeated Tomas Almeida. And again, I'm a fan of Tomas Almeida, and a bunch of people I respect were on Almeida, and even though I predicted Martinez to win, he could have won even more brutally with what I was thinking. That being said, what we did see from Almeida, man, that's kind of bummer, because he's just like, I hope he's not like, I hope that was just ring rust of all ring rust, and we don't have like a pre-shot kid or something like that, so we'll see, man. I'm still want to hope for the best for Almeida, but definitely props to Martinez, obviously. Pedro Martinez. And thanks to all who gave me props to that. I just hope you were able to cash. Really. Guram Kutateladze. Daddy's not Italian, but you're going to stick to it, aren't you? Defeated Mateus Gamrot. Gamrot. It's a sexy matchup he is there. Dan, don't do the KSW commentator. I don't have a problem with this. It was a fun fight. And I think it was Zane Simon. I'll give shouts to you said that, like, using the Will Brooks example and these guys that come over from champions from other organizations, they turn into 5-round fighters too early, and now they're back in the deceptively competitive UFC fights for 3 rounds. And you kind of saw that play out with the late turn on. And again, Kutaladze did some really good stuff to earn the round, so it was not for nothing, obviously. But yeah, I think there was a lot of legs to what Zane said. Also, shouts to Danny Martin, by the way. One of the, not just for you picking Ortega, but like he actually made a good case for it. And you got to recognize analysis. Anyone can make picks. And believe it or not, anyone can place a bet, ladies and gentlemen. But, the analysis press is your boy, so I got to give a shout out to Danny Martin of the Fight Site for that one. Jillian Robertson defeated Pauliana Botelho. Decision, thought she was going to get the sub, missed on that prop, but hey, man, good on Jillian Robertson to have a mature performance. It was a good performance for her as a fighter. Jung Young Park dusted off the takedown part of the game that he's shown before, and aptly so against John Phillips. Frustrated to watch for Phillips, but yeah, congrats if he piled onto the park. I think I had him in a parlay. Fair Ziam defeated Jamie Malarkey. Good on Ziam. I didn't watch the fight. Apparently, some people were upset with the scorecard. I was just kind of kitchen sink watching it and thought Malarkey won like others, so that's why I was just curious what the opinion was, but I did not bet, nor did I care about the result. Maxim Grishin defeated Gazimura. Look at his thighs. Joe Rogan there. Yeah, again, it's just more just fading Danty Gulov. He just stops fighting. Said Nurmagomedov is Max Striegel. He's not German, Dan. But neither is Dreikus. But that doesn't stop. Jesus Christ. Shouts to Kareem Zidane, by the way, for that article. It was really informative about that South Africa history and the farmer stuff, but God damn it. It's not, I wasn't trying to get political or anything like that or shit on the guy. Pile on. To do police, by the way. I just shared that article because for listeners of this podcast, no, this was another Downey Aaron for Dan Tom, where he randomly says something inappropriate, calling someone a racist. And sure enough, I mean, I'm not saying. Let me just pull up and let the guy I'll let the guy speak for himself. How about that, Dan? Jesus Christ, digging yourself a hole. It's late night Dan Tom, guys. It's late night Dan Tom. But the thing is, when Dan Tom gets inappropriate, the worst part is it ends up being true, I guess was the point of that. And we'll let history play out for itself. It definitely doesn't need any narrative from Dan Tom here. Jesus Christ. So that was that card. How did we do on time? Wow, Dan, 11 minutes. All right, at least you're not that bad there. Let's get over to UFC 254 after some brief message from our sponsors. Funball, still legal in 5 states. Just kidding, this podcast doesn't have sponsors. Although I did receive some positive encouragement on that. I'm terrible. I still haven't even put together analytics for that thing. Like, I don't know how many of y'all listen, to be honest. Like, so I probably need that information to go to a sponsor. This is what you're listening to. This is the helm of this show, folks. Explains a lot why things haven't gotten done. Yeah, I should not be surprised why my numbers suck, but thank you for being here. We will break down UFC 254. Do want to give a couple brief shouts to the Verbal Tapcast, at Verbal Tapcast. That's another thing, like, I don't want to complain too much, because, like, one, there's just the whole, someone always has it worse, and that's for damn sure, true. I don't want to disrespect that. So many people aren't working. I'm grateful to be working. I'm grateful for the opportunities I get. So, like, for those reasons alone, I feel awful. Even complaining, even though, not even this year. I mean, really for the past 5 years, I haven't really taken meaningful breaks that don't involve either work, funerals, or one time a wedding. That was about it. I don't get normal downtime at night, days off, so I tend to, like, get a little cranky from time to time. So I apologize for that, because, like, and it sucks now because, like, not only do I get invites, which, by the way, all invites are just amazing and I appreciate it because, like, someone wants to speak to me. Why the fuck would someone want to speak to me, first of all? So, like, thank you guys. That's a huge compliment, and I want to honor that. So don't be discouraged if you hear me being all burnt out. Like, I appreciate the invites, and I'll write them down if I can't commit to them to make them work in the future if I can't, right? But now I'm also getting invites for, like, podcasts that have been around for a minute, like the Verbal Tapcast, which you should follow at Verbal Tapcast. Subscribe to their channel. Raph and Kevin do an amazing job. And I'm like, what are these guys? These guys are funny and awesome. Like, why and OGs? Like, why the heck do they want to talk to me? But they did, and they had me back to go against Keith Krikorian, 10th Planet Black Belt. Raph pitted us together because we're essentially both really nice guys, although you probably wouldn't know from listening to this podcast, or at least my cranky ass right now. I apologize. But Keith was certainly a very nice guy. I totally see him being a dude I'd be friends with. And we made a extensive food bet on picks. So go check that out. I always love to do their podcast, and I think I'm going to recap so we can own up to see who won. But yeah, so please don't take my complaints too seriously, especially because, like, it's an honor to even be asked to come on these shows and whatnot. So also wanted to give a shout out. Well, the Loma Lopez fight was just great, and thank you guys for not getting too mad at me for canceling the after party edition. Not that I pull such massive numbers, but those of you who show up. But I wanted to watch Loma Lopez. I'm glad I did before I ruin it with any of my takes. Shout out to my man Philippe, French Philippe. I don't know if that's, like, offensive or not. I'm sorry. You know that I love you, Philippe. How about let's give him the proper shout down at ASAP-Pipa, Pipa. On Twitter. Of course, he is one of the interviewers, writers, and just all around best dudes around Twitter, and on a little site called the fightsite.com, fight-site.com. There, go follow them, check them out, and he does great. He was actually one of the few who called Tomofimo Lopez, getting the upset, but then also does a good job breaking it down. And he seems like such a nice guy. He's not even taking the victory lap like he could, And instead, he's just really basking in the analysis and pure science of it all. And your boy here is a fan of that. So go check out his work and give him a follow. Also on my dessert list that I got to get to you is Ed Gallo, who wrote about my dude Michael Chandler. So I'm going to check that out. Wrestling, Michael Chandler, Ed Gallo. That's check boxes for me. It doesn't matter if it's on a competitive site over on Bloody Elbow, and he was on the heavy hands, which again, I'm going to try to get you some more top fives coming your guys' way, including one with Phil McKenzie. And amongst those, don't think I didn't forget about you, Aiden, at AidenH25. He over at the fight site, one of the young, another one of the young bright analyst minds over there, wrote a great Khabib article on wrestling. And he tried to tackle an aspect that I haven't seen written about as much, focused on. Most of it's like mat wrestling and stuff, right? So I wanted to check it out, Aiden. Don't think I didn't see it, but again, with analysis I respect, if it is within what I have to cover, I'm probably not going to read it, especially before I do my stuff. So I had to actively avoid it. So take it as a compliment, but in return, I want to make sure and plug it so that everyone else gets around to it now that we're rounding out the week and gives you a follow. All right, enough shouts there, folks. Although there will be one in the first fight we break down between Khabib Nurmagomedov, who is now sitting at minus 310, whereas Justin Gaethje, the comeback, plus 255. 45. Yeah, man. So I broke this fight down as per usual. Check out the in-depth over at MMAJunkie.com for whatever I miss. I didn't write an in-depth for the co-main, but a co-main should be dropping any time now for a video as far as Cannonier Whitaker, which I'll talk about here shortly, therefore. And, of course, for all those top two matches, I do cover betting angles for all the co-main and co-main events in my weekly betting sheets over at Line Movement, as well as a parlay, which I'm going to cover more in depth with you guys here, but I do give it there. And, of course, the Line Movement MMA betting show with me and Dan Levy, who we brought on Eric Nixick, Extreme Couture coach, who I've been overdue to get on my show, but I'm a terrible friend and podcaster. Surprise, surprise, right? And so sure enough, Eric ends up on my new platform than my long established one, right? Either way, the stuff at Line Movement, if you haven't been looking at the video quality and what the production that does there, it is freaking insane. I'm not going to shout on anyone else, because we're all friends, but just, and we all have connections somehow through work. But man, just go look at the quality from Live Movement and other channels and get back to me, all right? Seriously, you can hate my guts, you can hate us, but go look at that damn quality of that damn channel. Anyways, we had Eric Nixick on there, and speaking of quality, he brought really, really interesting insights that I will try to remember as we go along should they come up. So please check it there. It's another digestible show, just under an hour, like this one aims to be, and hopefully will be, knock on wood. And then also give, Eric a follow at Eric_XCMMA. I believe off the top of my head. I believe we were all on the same side with Nurmagomedov as our pick, but we both were rooting for with our hats, but also expressing legitimately why there was value on Gaethje. As this is, painting with broad brushes here, dog or pass. I mean, you really got to be confident and a fan, in my opinion, to be wanting to lay north of 3-1 chalk. I know it's Khabib, but this is hyperbole aside, it is his most dangerous matchup. A lot of talk about the Sambo wrestling or the Khabib's wrestling, Dagestan wrestling versus folk style, and it's really weird. Kind of like, again, another good reason to follow your boy, and especially the work I put out over at MMA Junkie, is that I broke down the wrestling, and I kind of set off the bat in that article. I didn't get too deep into Khabib's because you can't stereotype Khabib's. I mean, you could stereotype the freestyle versus folk style, which I've talked about before, and I believe I do mention in that article, as far as the difference for points control, and scoring is supposed to. The reversals, scrambles, and different rule sets that you're dealing with folk style that translate more to the mat wrestling and MMA metas, if you will. But Khabib's, do any of us know what Dagestan wrestling is? And again, it's weird because I think I left out the exact names, and I probably have in my notes somewhere here. But rest in peace, Abdul Nurmagomedov. He was a freestyle wrestler, master of sports, back when Russia was called the old USSR. But while in the military, he trained with he trained Sambo in the military and branched out and a really renowned sambo stylist, or I should say judo stylist outside of the military. So there's judo, sambo, and freestyle wrestling mixed in there. Obviously, sambo is more like judo with the gi jacket. You've got the joint lock submissions like the arm bars, the leg locks, etc. Combat sambo will be involved with punches, which Nurmagomedov went into himself. I don't believe combat sambo. If it was strictly for the military, I believe, when Abdul Manap was active with the sambo. But sambo, at least the sport version, as we see and are familiar with, not as old as at least I originally suspected. I don't know about you guys. I'm not going to speak for you, especially my ignorant ass. But yeah, so really interesting stuff there, right? So the point is, it's just this crazy amalgamation. You just got to look at what Khabib does on paper. And essentially is wrestling is much better than people give credit for. However, like I've been saying for a while, he's okay with failing on his first attempt so long as he can get you to the fence. Now, my man over there, Benny Abs, is pulling his hair out going, he doesn't need the fence. Shout out to Benny Abs, by the way, and his podcast. That was the shout I wanted to give. Fixed Fights Podcast. Go give them a subscribe and follow. Benny's a good dude. And perhaps I missed it, though. I did listen to this episode. I think I was preoccupied kind of doing something. So maybe I missed where he goes into detail. But, I do agree, okay, he could chain in the open as well. It's not that he can't get takedowns in the open. Offhand, as far as the relevant and recent ones go, I believe one of the earlier ones he got on Conor was in the open. Correct me if I'm wrong. Conor gave him a lot to chain from because he was, to his Conor's credit, which I get people don't want to give it to him, I guess, but Conor's a good grappler and a good counter wrestler, folks. He showed some really good stuff there, and he made Khabib chain. So yeah, and then Khabib eventually, what did he do? He got him down. Yes, now they're arguing. Did he? At least Conor still is. He didn't do that much damage in the first. I don't give a crap. Point is, he got him down, right? So I totally get that he can. So I would love to hear more Benny Abs' thoughts on that. Because I respect his opinion. But I guess I would still say that whatever evidence you can bring to the table for that, I would still argue that at the end of the day, there's more evidence that he gets his game going, especially the rounds where he gets his finishes in. It's from the fence, for one. And for two, now putting his part of the sample size aside and pairing it, because MMA is about matchups, right? It's about who you're paired up with. That's kind of where the relevance comes. It's where the double-edged sword comes, right? Pair it with a guy like Gaethje, and I believe that Gaethje is much better in the open because his hips are hardwired to hit the floor. Now, when he's forced to sprawl against the fence, he can still circle and skirt out. We saw some of that in the Firmino fight, right? Unfortunately, why are you referencing the fight again? That's, 4 years old, Dan. Well, I'm sorry, folks. Gaethje hasn't fought a lot of guys around 5'9" who are durable, determined, highly credentialed grapplers who push that game plan. So it's a good matchup. And in Gaethje supporters, that was one of the few times where he does show the Granby roll. Now, whether you go to his collegiate footage, what's available to his wrestling footage, typically when someone gets in on his hips, takes him down, or anywhere in between the mat return zone, he's tripoding. He's always using the left underhook and looking to separate with his right hand. But as I say in my breakdown, not only is the tripod, mat returns, back takes, people want to argue Khabib's back control, and I think it's pretty dang good, man. I think it's pretty dang good. You can argue that, yeah, his overall game is attritive, and do they usually get him to an attritive spot before the finish sinks in? Okay, sure. But as far as control goes, he's not losing control that much, and he's not really taking any that big of chances. He's fairly high percentage. Surprise, surprise. Khabib's high percentage grappler. I know, blowing you guys away perhaps with some of this. But not only that, but even let's say, he's able to tripod, overhook, turn in, separate. Let's say he gets through all those steps without Khabib stifling him along any of those ways, all right? I still don't like that the inherent side that and it's a good overhook, it's a hoisting overhook accompanied with the hips and grips, right? I'm not saying, folks, I just feel like it's going to be a race to get out of dodge where he's still going to ultimately have to either, sprawl or belly down again and just kind of circle out and keenly separate like he was able to do with parts of the Firmino fight early on, especially, right? Because not only does Khabib predicate most of his game off of an underhook or a lower extremity, which I feel like those lower extremities, as in easy, folks, I mean their legs, I feel like those will be harder to grab. Those low singles and whatnot. We've seen him work before. He's got a tight grip, but, we've also seen the same guys defend him, even later into the fight. Like Quintus of the world, etc., right? I would expect no less from Gaethje unless he's tired, which is part of the reason why I'm picking Khabib, because I think he can get him there, playing the long game, right? I think the first layer defense is going to hold up well, but the longer it goes, it gets him tired. I'm jumping ahead. Back to the point, though, about the underhook. Is that underhook or lower extremity, all right? Is that Gaethje always does the overhook on the left side, which means what underhook does that give? The right underhook. Again, it's going to be a race at that point. Even if he beats the tripod, he turns in, separates the grip, he's still at a race. You're still racing at that point, okay? And conceding, what is being conceded toward down the stretch of those the positional run through that I just gave is the underhook against the last guy you want to give. And I noticed that Khabib always looks for, gets, and or does his best work finishing from, that's right, folks, the right underhook. So any defensive standpoint, Gaethje is going to inherently be giving that underhook. Now, hopefully, his hips are already doing most of the work where it's kind of null and void, right? And he gets a clean sprawl out of the factor. Hopefully, after that clean sprawl, he can circle and separate. And I think he will do that, folks, in fact, for the first few. But just like the way Khabib striking overachieves and shouldn't be good as it looks, because of, as credit to Coach Eric Nixick, who really put it in the simplest but best terms, because I really was missing it myself, if I'm being honest. Not that I disagree. I totally get it. It was right there for the taking. But Nixick put it beautifully, man. And he was just like, it's that level-changing threat, man. And that's true. And that's why he's able to knock down guys like Conor McGregor, which is also why people perhaps overblow the knockdown, even though they're using it in good faith to defend what is underrated striking. And again, it is underrated striking, but it's underrated to Coach's point, the level-changing threat. And that level-changing threat is a two-way street, right? A.K.A. Fighting 101. Cain Velasquez, Cormier, Fitch, before them. You can go high and then go low subsequently, too. And just having that looming takedown threat as a simmer already makes for a different fight, even when he's not shooting, because the threat is there. He didn't have to worry about it with Michael Johnson, even though Michael Johnson actually scored a takedown on him. He didn't have to worry about it as much with Eddie, although Eddie has shown to wrestle in later parts of his career and took him down in that fight, technically. But you get the point. It wasn't a major facet of the game. So, yeah, man. So for those reasons, I ended up picking, Nurmagomedov. That, and let's be honest, I lost all privileges to pick Gaethje. But let me give you folks, before we move on here, and then I'll push the rest of this card much faster, how Gaethje can win. And I do detail this part in the breakdown too, is that Khabib does kind of get overly faithful in his jab sometimes. And sometimes he'll step back, which I imagine he'll do here. If, Gaethje was able to get Ferguson to be the one stepping back, he will get Khabib, who has retreated space and conceded space since the beginning of his UFC career. But now he'll do it behind a more craftier jab, a pulling jab. Problem is he pulls a hand down to his hips and retracts it low. And Gaethje is like a Korean zombie, like wired to counter early now, but does so specifically, one of which is best tools, which is inside parry right hand, which if you've got a jab that you're leaning on a little too much and retracting a little too low, you're asking to get hit by it. Secondly, again, aka 101, but in the negative, Khabib, like Cormier, also has a propensity to slip heavily, much heavier to his power side than he does to the outside. Right? Therefore, things from the left side, whether they're shifting from the southpaw, which Gaethje will do, or just left hooks in general, which is Gaethje's underrated shot, especially when he throws away the right hand, hits him with a left hook. That shot could be there, or as Nick Sick aptly named from through the Ludwig system, of course gets it from Dwayne himself, the Barao, where Gaethje will throw the cross. Like I was saying to Eric, it's like we've been waiting for like 10 years for guys to start finally rolling under their crosses. And now like we made this hyper jump where now not only guys are doing it, but they're stepping through, rolling through, and setting up that left hand, what TJ knocked out Barao with. Gaethje hits that all the time. We saw Al tag Nurmagomedov with both inside parries and the kind of Barao combo. But one, we're comparing Al with Gaethje, which it's not a knock on Al. I'm just saying Al wasn't prepared to take that fight, wasn't supposed to be in that fight, and it wasn't supposed to be in a round 4 where he landed both the things I just cited. So I don't know how much gusto was on those shots. So let's see what Gaethje can do with him, right? So if he does win, I do think it's going to be by those shots, but I'm going to go with Nurmagomedov. Fourth round submission, which you can get plus money on if you're feeling that, but I do think it's dog or pass. Check out linemovement.com for my betting articles on that and the next one, which is dead even. Robert Whitaker minus 110, Jared Cannonier minus 110. Yeah, baby, crystal time. And conspiracy, disturbing conspiracy theory. All right, Dan, don't get into it. All right. Jesus Christ. How about that, though, huh? That was, speaking of, I think it was a Korean article as well, like speaking of disturbing stuff, man. Jesus. No chill for Cannonier. Cannon pants. Cannonier actually opened as the favorite, surprises some, over the former champ. Which I get. I get if you're playing Cannonier here or you're picking him, right? Like, I get it. You could certainly catch Whitaker with a hook. Off the break, coming in, right? Crashing. He's going when it's go time, and that's something he's shown to have no problem doing since he's moved down to middleweight. However, if it bleeds, we can kill it. And Cannonier has been stopped. Guys with good left hands, whether it's from the orthodox stance like young Blachowicz or Dominic Reyes off the counter from southpaw, those left hands have been troublesome to Cannonier. Although I believe it might have been a right hook from Sean Jordan that put him out at heavyweight. However, Cannonier's been, I don't know if he has a process per se, because the sample size is a bit skewed, right? They've been fast fights. He's been looking great, but, we know where the David Branch trajectory was, and we could see that he could fall apart in fights. Anderson Silva can literally just fall apart at any given time now at his point of his career. I'm not trying to take anything away from leg kicks or him. It's no coincidence that, he does good when he moves to an MMA lab, who is renowned for its leg kicking abilities, right? And innovative leg kicks. So, again, obviously not trying to take credit from the obvious. However, doesn't mean you can't state some facts. And even Hermanson, speaking of fighters who kind of fall apart, certain athletic matchups, by his own admission. Cannonier was a bad matchup, and you could see that. So, we will see. Whitaker thinks he's going to get the stoppage in the second round. If you think that, you can, play that fight doesn't go the distance minus 140. You can either use that to hedge or compound a Cannonier play or plus money Cannonier play if you like the plus 170 Cannon Pants TKO. Maybe he can rip the legs off Zarepa. But I like Robert Whitaker. He's plus 205 by decision. I think he wins by decision. I don't know if I'm going to sprinkle that. I think I wrote like Juggernaut approach. I don't know why I compare certain certain black fighters to the X-Men redub of the Juggernaut. Is that racist? I don't know. I always like every time I see Jerry Cannonier, I just hear like the Juggernaut voice, like, "Yeah, baby, oh, it's time." But maybe it's crystal time. I don't know, man. Those crystals are crazy. Give him some superpowers. He can come out here and knock Whitaker done. But it's tough, Like I was talking with my co-host, Dan Levy. I do feel like the 10 rounds with Romero is overblown. Like, how long are we going to hold that over the guy's head? He's 29 years old, goddammit, And what point does it stop being a badge of honor and now it becomes spoiled goods or damaged goods label, Like, let's make up our mind, That being said, again, Whitaker could lose here. I just don't feel like that Romero sample size should get the credit. However, speaking of durability, again, Coach Eric Nixick, who joined us, countered beautifully, both of us, with a fact that I agree on. I think a middle ground that we both agreed on, which was, if we're going to talk about durability, we should talk about going 5 rounds with Till and turning around this fast. And that is true, even though I downplayed and scored more favorably to Whitaker than maybe some in that fight. The fact was that Darren Till hit him with some solid shots that should be respected, right? And they did go 5 rounds. You can't deny that. So great point on Eric. However, even that has a double-edged sword, right? We can look at it like, we just went 5 rounds. Or we can look at it to kind of further extinguish in the past that Romero point of, okay, this guy's taking hard shots from southpaws. Granted, Till is different than Romero, but Till still hits freaking hard, and he landed good shots, and Whitaker was able to, did get knocked down in the first round, but that was a beautiful, perfect shot that he ran right into. He got right back on the clock and was able to not get rocked or knocked down again. Again, it was more cosmetic injury in the 5th with that elbow. Right there. And if we are going to talk about the, so that proves, to me, that actually proves a lot. I'm glad he got hit, was able to take it. Now, the turnaround point's still alive. That's a definite flag that has me worried here. As I admittedly haven't pulled the triggers, you could make a case for either a pick'em. I will say one aspect, though. A lot of people looking at the leg kicks from Cannonier because of what he did to Silva. And although I wasn't trying to unfairly downplay it, I will try to fairly counter it by saying, I brought up the points of the Whitaker leg kicks, man. Whitaker has made it a point to try to injure the knees of everybody since getting his knee injured. And he's always been a hard guy to leg kick because his in and out style. That's why you've had to be a precision countering striker. Like the big athletes, again, let's talk about Romero. Or the other big athletes that have come his way. Say what you will about the scoring or the scares that happen in those fights. Robert Whitaker had some of his best performances with some highlight reel finishes. You bring in other guys like Derek Brunson, who's still showing his mettle today in age, right? He's usually done well, in other words, or beat these guys, in other words. The guys he hasn't beaten are guys or the guys that have knocked him out are only 2, and those are some of the best precision strikers and credentialed strikers to ever step foot in the octagon. Much less at welterweight and middleweight, man. Adesanya and Stephen Thompson. That's not Cannonier. Again, can Cannonier knock him out? Yes, but not in the fashion those guys did. No, sir. And so he's hard to leg kick. And let's look at the leg kicks received. I found this interesting. Outside of 13 for 16 leg kicks, which Jack Hermanson went on Cannonier, and Cannonier only showed to actively check one of those misses, which hopefully for Cannonier supporters and Cannonier, that's a trend. But literally, heavyweight, light heavyweight, middleweight, all those other fights, everyone landed either 100% or missed one of the leg kicks they threw. That's a fact. Now, there are some numbers as low as 3 and 6, but some as high as 27 to 16. Still, they either landed every leg kick they've thrown at Cannonier, or they only missed one. And even Hermanson's landing in the 90 percentile range. I mean, so now you're going to have Whitaker throwing those as well? He's going to be throwing it against a guy coming forward too, like Cannonier already stated he wants to do. So I find that to be interesting. I think the leg kicks are going to be worth looking out for on both sides. I'll take Whitaker if he goes back down to plus money. I'm going to hit on that. I do feel like it's definitely worth pulling the trigger on either man at plus money, though you can make a argument for pick'em. Not sure if I'll sprinkle on the decision prop or not. Next fight, Alexander Volkov, minus 175. Walt, Big Ticket Harris, plus 155. I've always been a big fan of Walt Harris. Southpaw, you don't come across a lot of Southpaws. Volkov's only had one his whole career. Tim Johnson, who put him on his ass with an uppercut. Eric's trained with, held pads with both guys, Tim Johnson and a Walt Harris, and was just raving about Walt Harris in the gym. I mean, he must be good if guys like, Tyson Fury are flying him out and having him extend his stay. Or Deontay Wilder, of course, with more of a hometown connection there, granted. But does fuel my point about heavyweight southpaw, folks. They are few and far between, and Walt Harris is a good one. Does that mean he's a world champion? Does it mean he's a good grappler? No, I'm not. I've never said any of those things. But I've always been a supporter of the Walt Harris southpaw. And how can you not root for Harris? Now, everything he's went through, there's probably some bias in there, which is why I couldn't put him as a live dog, even though I believe he's a live dog, even though I'm picking him. And I'll probably lightly sprinkle on him, but it's heavyweight, folks. I believe the right man is favored here in Volkov to frustrate Walt, keep it long. And, he could sting Walt. This could be a guy that Volkov knocks out. I've seen Volkov get unfairly criticized for being a soft-handed heavyweight, and I think he's more of a precision guy. But I do think he can put guys out, and we've seen Walt Harris, get put out by some things, right, in the past. So, believe me, I have no disillusions here. I'm definitely not expecting anybody to follow me off this cliff. But I'm going to pick Harris here to get the upset for speed, man. I think, the worry is he's been hinting about working on his wrestling. And although that is a way to beat Volkov, I do worry about Harris tiring himself out that way. Not because he tired himself out last fight. That's an unfair sample size. We all know what he was going through. He is clearly, not just by his word, but go look at his social media, clearly in better shape here. That being said, you can get more tired, A, grappling, B, fighting a style you're not used to fighting. So that's a big worry here. Still going to pick Harris. Phil Hawes, minus 240. Jacob Malkoon, plus 200. No clue. Jacob Malkoon didn't watch any tape, but I think he's only got like 4 fights. So I'm going to pick the wrestler Hawes to fulfill some potential, gain some confidence. But it's like every fight, every fight card, it's like the usual suspects and all the chalk, get in front of us. We've got, they all take their turn, going, give me the keys to the car, you motherfucker. Give me the keys to the car, you motherfucker. And you got to pick which one's the fake, which chalk is going to bust. Usual suspects reference there. And that's what it feels like. And Phil Hawes, at the end of the night, if you tell me Phil Hawes is the parlay buster, I would not be surprised. That being said, I'm going to pick Phil Hawes here, and I'll probably put him in something degenerate. So good luck to you. All right. Again, I didn't tape that fight, if it wasn't clear. I did surprisingly do some decent tape on this one, and Lilia Shakriova versus plus 175. Shakarova, plus 175. Minus 210, Lauren Murphy. Kind of rubber banding a bit on the line. Was going to go Lauren Murphy hands down parlay piece, although she, is right there. She didn't make the cut for the parlay I'm going to give, but she's still right there. But it's tricky because you get another. This girl, she's fighting Shakirova. She reminds me of Zalga Zumagulov. Different countries, I believe, but similar parts of the world. This girl comes from Uzbekistan, so Mahmoud Murdov is where her countryman. But she reminds me of I think it's Kazakh fighter Zalga Zumagulov. They both can fight from both stances, although she fights from southpaw much less than Zalgas. She can box a bit, but it's pretty basic. Good takedowns, will hustle after it, consistent pace, can work against the fence. Can scramble decently, but needs to be controlling and on top for the most part to be doing well. And consistently finds himself in split decisions that, you could argue, I think she won the one she lost. But then you could also argue she lost some that she won. So again, back to the Zalgas Zumagulov reference, who's done very similar things. Similar to Zalgas, she is also an FNG champ, which looks impressive on paper. But again, you got to be careful. Doesn't mean everything. And if you remember, I keep referencing Zalgas. I still ended up picking and playing against him despite being undefeated or near undefeated Russian guy, or from that region of the world, FNG champ. And I feel the same here with Shakirova, because Lauren Murphy ultimately has a good pace and pressure. That's one of the things she's in fact improved. So she's not going to tire out. She's improved her wrestling, not to the point where she's not going to give takedowns. I do think she'll give takedowns to this girl, but I do want to see him at face-offs, because I feel like this girl is really small, which wouldn't surprise me, because like a lot of fighters from that region, they don't cut weight. They're kind of like the Asians in a lot of those Far East European countries. They don't exactly cut weight, you know? Like, I don't know why I'm going to reference ACB guy, Beslan Esaev, but he's like an underrated welterweight who was like knocking dudes dead and was going to be the shit and was one of their promoters' favorite dudes. Like, I remember they wanted me to do a breakdown of him, and I wrote up back in the day. You can find somewhere. It's like 5 years old. But like a lot of these guys, I just learned while researching Beslan. I'm like, it wasn't uncommon for males and females like that to not just cut a lot of weight for their divisions. So whereas Lauren Murphy not only is a former bantamweight, but she's just one of the most physical flyweights there are, hands down. Another underrated part that's always been underrated, not just recently improved, but always been underrated, is Lauren Murphy's jiu-jitsu, I would say. More so in latter part of her career. And even in pandemic era, wasn't something that was going to go down, because her husband is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt and her coach. And then she's got a really good striking coach who can mimic, she's been in quarantine with and can mimic a bunch of styles. So, like, she seems really set. Like, she's not going to have Coach Bob Perez there, which is the guy in Derek Lewis's corner. But it honestly sounds like the other two coaches might be more important. So I don't blame people putting Lauren Murphy in a parlay, but we've seen flyweight number one contenders, or deserving number one contenders like Murphy is with her win streak, lose it at the last second before. So again, would I be that surprised to find out Lauren Murphy was the parlay buster? No, but for the reasons I just said, as well as one other thing, which is why, again, I will pick and probably end up playing Murphy here in another parlay, perhaps layering the parlay by doing a separate third leg, is Shakirova is it is Shakirova, that's funny, is her jiu-jitsu is not great on top and bottom, especially on bottom. It was really disturbing stuff. Like, I could see Lauren Murphy back-mounting her for a round in this fight, and then maybe not getting the submission, but just pounding away. So yeah, I'll take Lauren Murphy. Next fight, first leg of the parlay. Surprise, surprise. Magomed Ankalaev, a.k.a. Dagestani Stipe, minus 310 versus Ivan Cutelaba, plus 255. Basically, I trust Magomed Ankalaev's Greco accolades by having to win championships in Dagestan over Ivan Cutelaba's Moldovan accolades of claiming to wrestle Greco for 12 years and barely showing 12 seconds of wrestling in 4 years of UFC fights now, I believe. So, for that reason, I'm going to take Ankalaev, who I can see finishing things on the ground because he's got scary ground and pound. Almost as scary as his team, Ahmed. Sorry. I want to go there. But speaking of team, he was training over there at Extreme Couture while he was in town, and old Eric Nixick was saying Ankalaev was over there taking dudes' heads off in the gym with similar head kicks that he was hitting on fucking Prakniao and even Dalcha La Jambula. Yeah, the line keeps opening wider every time this fight gets rebooked for a reason. I think it actually happens this time. Give me Ankalaev. I think the under will probably hit too. What is the under listed at? Under 1.5 plus 100. Jesus Christ, can I play that? Let's look for the under. Do they offer it on my bookie? My bookie, would you like to offer me some? No, you guys. Oh, well, you guys can, but the line sucks. Minus 105 here, plus 100 at other places. Yeah, I think that under hits at minus 1.5. If you so please. But I took him as a leg in the parlay. Something later. Dead even, Stefan Struve minus 210, who originally opened as, was it a minus 145, minus 130 favorite, over Tai Tuivasa when he came in on him. I actually picked Tai, And as an underdog, I'm like, fuck it. Even though I like Stefan Struve and I have rightfully faded Ty before it became apparently obese. But and there's no diss on Ty, believe me. I love his personality. Love my Australian brothers and sisters. Love his story. But then I picked him on the Verbal Tapcast, and I for whatever reason I thought I was only gonna make main card picks, not prelim picks. So I was like giving like the whole card picks on a Sunday when I wasn't researched, which is a real bad idea for Dan Tom in his process. So I gotta be careful about doing that in the future. And even I was joking even on the show, I was like, don't feel bad for picking against me there, Keith, because like I'm looking now after I locked in my Taito Ivasa play. I'm like, this guy got subbed by noted fishing hole fighter Sergey Spivak. So that was very disturbing. So you can tell me my man Stefan Struve ain't gonna find a way to submit him. Stefan Struve seems determined if that's what he wants to do, but Taito Ivasa, even though he didn't get to finish his camp at AKA since the pandemic hit, he still looks determined and motivated because he looks like in the best shape ever. So let's see. I stuck with Ty. I'm going to live and die with that. Money seems to be following there and coming in on him, but I'd still be careful about playing this. I'm staying away. Good luck if you played it. I'll stick with Taito Ivasa reluctantly. I'll feel good if Stefan Struve can win, though. Second leg of the parlay. Casey Kenny, minus 170. Comeback on Nathaniel Wood, plus 150. Now my editors, whether they see in my show or anyone listening to this show, are like, what the heck? Because I was really high with everybody else in the show with Casey Kenny for reasons I'll talk about in a second. But I kind of just, again, this week's been so fucking crazy. I had a bunch of like last minute assignments dropped on me, plus, my dog's surgery. Thank you guys for reaching out, by the way. Y'all were too kind. But that's just between not taking breaks and working and then ignoring my own health and just realizing I've been a bad dog dad was really getting to me. And if any of this stuff was cancerous with old Benjamin, not going to forgive myself for getting lost in this stupid schedule. Because there's more important things than work, people. So anyways, I don't know how I got off that side tangent. But yeah, it's been a crazy week for your boy here. So I was kind of going off of a lot of memory and recency bias. I was like, oh yeah, the only time Nathaniel Wood has fought a southpaw, he lost in John Dodson, which that does actually hold a lot of water, that matchup. However, my dumbass forgot that Andre Ull was a southpaw, forgot that Teco Quinones, the fights switch stance, primarily fought him southpaw, and John Castaneda, although he shifts and will fight off both stance, primarily fought him out of southpaw. And Nathaniel Wood, to his own admission, likes facing southpaws because he's faced so many southpaws. So Dan Tom was just eating shit as he was rewatching some Nathaniel Wood footage, going, what the fuck have I done? This Nathaniel Wood guy's pretty good. Holy crap. Maybe he's going to beat Kenny. What have I done? I'm on the wrong side. I just misled everybody. They're going to write about the matchup now. And then I forget how it came up, and I'm like, oh, God, I'm so wrong. And like, what were you wrong on? I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm wrong, but I'm just not as confident in Kenny as I initially was. Well, I went to read back and rewatch Kenny, and we haven't got to see him in striking matchups, so no wonder why the striking surprised us. Now, Luis Smolka was hitting to the body a lot, but Luis Smolka has been quietly making a lot of improvements behind the scene, has shown body work in previous fights, and is much longer than Nathaniel Wood, though Nathaniel Wood's long arms and hooks will be dangerous in this fight. Don't get it twisted. Watch out for Nathaniel Wood's left hook. That being said, it wasn't enough to worry me about Kenny. And Kenny was still able to submit him with a gnarly guillotine and remind me of why he calls himself a world-class grappler, why he should dictate and win any of the grappling exchanges with that. But whether it was Castaneda, fights he won recently, way past fights like Ull, or fights that he lost like Dotson, none of these guys were doing southpaw double attacks or body kicks, hard tie kicks, much less hard tie kicks to the head and body like Casey Kenny was mixing up. And you can, shit on Holly Alatang, like, oh, he's a Chinese fighter or whatever, but dude's one of the more athletic and more wrestling-based fighters and hard-hitting, durable dudes as we saw to come out of that scene, who we needed to respect, and Kenny did. He just kept beating the crap out of him. So I would worry about the turnaround in that sense, but Casey Kenny had like terrible adjustment periods, came out and fought in the middle of the night there, right? Whereas this fight, this trip around, he adjusted on the first day by his own admission, and he doesn't even have to do that much adjusting anyways because they're fighting at a normal time over there. So like he's already on schedule. So as long as he's healthy, as he says he's Wolverine, I think he gets this because Nathaniel Wood, as slick, as well-rounded, as much credit he should be given. I love Brad Pickett. Underrated wrestler, Brad Pickett. Wood's got good submissions. Some decent wrestling himself. However, I think he depends on having that wrestling, grappling, submission threat in his back pocket, plying and flowing, or being able to ply it to make his power and game overall flow and work. That well-rounded game of Wood, right? I think he needs that takedown there. And when he doesn't have that, again, go look at John Dotson, not just a southpaw who can pop, but some wrestling so he could counter-wrestle, right? And scramble. Wood was forced to do what? Strike in a way that didn't behoove him. Now, I would like to believe Wood when he says he's learned from that lesson. However, that doesn't mean he's going to be dictating the fight. Definitely doesn't mean he's going to be winning grappling exchanges, even if he can't avoid the counters or the onslaught of Kenny. So, sorry for the emotional circle, folks. But yeah, I came back around, sticking with my gut where it was right, because my gut wasn't that wrong. It was only half wrong last week. Hopefully it's not half wrong this week. And we get Kenny right, because if you pair Kenny with Ankalaev, it's like a plus money for you. And I went big on that already. So that was another reason I was stressing, because I already bet it. So I did put my money where my mouth is, folks, for what that's worth. All right. Alex Oliveira initially opened as the favorite, but now it's practically a pick-em as he went to dog money. People, I don't want to say smartly jumped on Alex Oliveira because I'm not picking him here, spoiler alert. But Alex Oliveira back up to minus 105. This fight's probably going to stay contentious at probably around minus 110. As Shaved Cat Rakhimov, minus 115. Shaved Cat opened at plus money, but you know what? I don't know, man. It's hard to tell, right? Because you can get like these, I was just saying with the Zalgas Sumagulovs of the world or the Lilia Shekirovas. They can be good, but not as good as you think. That could certainly be the case here, folks. But I do think that Shaved Cat Rakhimov is going to be good enough to win this fight. This guy's got some accolades in Sambo, Master of Sports in Sambo, as well as MMA. Really strong in the clinch, which he's going to need against Alex Oliveira, and that's kind of what worries me in this fight. But if he does get it to the ground, which he's shown other forms to get to the ground as well, he's going to have a real clear edge. This guy's got ridiculously good ground and pound. Active, will just beat guys up, man. Will float positions wisely and smartly. I really like what I see in that regard. Seems pretty tight and confident on the feet. Gets to where he wants to. He hasn't been to a third round, which is worrisome. However, Oliveira's only been to like a decision like 5 times, I think, in 30 plus fights. So, he looked good in his last fight, but is Sabata, who fights every 2 years and is now on the older side of things, how much of it was that, or the fact that Kyle Noak finish wasn't so fluky at all, that Sabata maybe is really weak to the body because that front kick just fucked him up from Jump Street and he was never really able to get off from there. He tried 3 takedowns and failed on him, and Alex Oliveira, his defense looks like he's been staying active and working on those parts of his game, and he's always been strong in the clinch, so he's able to defend. If he's able to defend here, then it's trouble for Rakhimov. We could see an opportunistic knockout. However, I think that Rakhimov still you could argue that depends what you say moves better. I mean, are we talking about moves better as far as, impregnating a bunch of ladies on the same street, or, moves better from a fundamental standpoint? From a fundamental standpoint, I really like what I'm seeing from Shaved Cat. So I think he can win the decision. I think on the ground he can win by TKO or submission, which might mean, even though Alex Oliveira is more experienced and is coming off a decision win, it could be primarily KO or bust. So if you were able to get Shaved Cat at underdog odds, I don't blame you for playing against Alex Oliveira there. But be careful playing against Alex Oliveira. I'm going to pick Shavecat, but I haven't played him. I don't think I'm going to play him because I'm scared to fade him in this spot. But I do like what I like from Shavecat, so we'll see what he got. Good luck to you if you got plus money on either side. Sam Alvey, plus 270. Da Un Jung, minus 330. I'm going to go with Da Un Jung here. But this is definitely a fight. Da Un Jung and Phil Hawes definitely could be the parlay busters in my mind. Are probably most likely. Like, I could totally see Sam Alvey doing a Cesar Fajeda repeat. We'll see. It's just, you've been burned by Sam. It's nothing personal. Sam has been on this podcast. Feel like a dick every time I pick against him. It's nothing personal, but you got to put your biases aside. And I am, giving him credit as value here as far as a bettor goes, but also as a betting analyst. The pick is Jung. Moving on, Miranda Maverick, who seems like she could be that way, minus 380 against Liana Jojua, plus 315. Maverick opened at minus 140. I think she's the deserved favorite. I feel like minus 140 is much more down to earth. That being said, I do think money's coming in on Maverick for a reason. Now, I picked, played, and cashed on Jojua last time, who won by submission. However, she seems like she's an armbar or bust kind of girl. And against a wrestler who's experienced in grappling, and even my dude, if I can call him that now, after we podcasted together, 10th Planet Black Belt Keith Krikorian, is familiar with Miranda and the people she trains with and had good things to say. So I don't think that armbar hits. And when you miss an armbar, then next thing you know, you're turtled and you're giving your back, and Miranda's going to work you over for the round or get a finish. So I will take Miranda Maverick, probably be putting her in a parlay. Knock on wood, I guess would I be that surprised to see a debutante in this division be the parlay buster? Yeah, I guess I can't say I would be surprised, right? However, I'm going to jump off that cliff, and I'll probably be throwing her in a parlay. Make of that what you will. Yoel Alvarez, minus 160. Alexander Yakovlev, plus 140. I didn't put this on the avoid list because, it's playable from both sides as far as points of entry go, especially compared to the chalk that you're asking to take or have faith in, like I just foolishly did in the last fight, right? So I'm not going to go and say this is an avoid fight. I am going to pick Yoel Alvarez. However, I'm not going to play him. Yakovlev can be crafty on the ground, a crafty grappler, but then again, Yoel Alvarez, say what you will about him, is unproven sample size, or the scene that he comes from. So we've seen from both his record to what he is doing against higher level guys. Granted, say what you will about Duffy on his way out. And I like Joe Duffy, by the way. That wasn't a knock on him. But yes, Yoel Alvarez, submission savvy. Usually when they're good at submissions, they're hard to submit. So unless Yakovlev gets a shifting KO like he busted out against, back in the Dizzy now, right? Against, what was his name? George Sullivan, New Jersey. Then Yoel Alvarez should win this. So good luck if you play Alvarez. All right. How did we do on time, Dan? How did we? 103. Damn it, we did just over an hour. God damn it. It was kind of a long card. All right, let's recap from top to bottom. Taking Nurmagomedov over Gaethje. Taking Whitaker over Cannonier. Taking Harris over Volkov. Taking Hawes over Malkoon. Taking taking Murphy over Shakidova. Taking Ankalaev, Dagestani Stipe over Cute Laba. Taking Tuivasa over Struve. Reluctantly taking, oh my God, hopefully they didn't kill Kenny over Nathaniel Wood. Taking Shaved Cat Rachmanov over Alex Cowboy Oliveira. Taking Don Jung over Alvey. Taking Miranda Maverick over Jojua. Taking Alvarez over Yakovlev. I just parlayed Kenny and Ankalaev together at plus 107. That's my only official play. Nothing on the avoid list. Good luck to you on whatever you played. Apologies. Thanks for dealing with me this week. The late releases in the expedited air quote edition. If it's not too much, please support me through mixedmartialanalyst.com to help keep this free. Amazon and Onnit click-throughs are there to no cost of you. You can help support this podcast, as well as 5-star ratings, reviews on Apple Podcasts. Very helpful. YouTube, subscribe, like this video. Please subscribe to the channel, Daniel Tom MMA. Share it. Help me out. It's fucking miserable. I'm a terrible salesman, and I suck, I know, but any help would be appreciated. Or if you really want to go above and beyond, you're feeling generous from a bet, or you just want to help support the show, that is free. You can go to mixedmartialanalyst.com, click the PayPal link. All legit, verified through there. So thank you very much. Good luck on your picks and plays, and always protect your neck.